Alrighty, it has been a while since I made a video. I want to say it's been 13 or 12 days, somewhere in between, and this is my returning starter video after being on hiatus for a little bit and relaxing and enjoying life and enjoying gym and all that fun stuff. Devil May Cry right now, as a community, they are in a state of disappointment, disarray. And I believe this all stems from the fact that we don't really have any other new content to look forward to outside of the anime, and that's it. There's no new games announced at the time of this recording. There is no new sort of releases at the time of this recording. Devil May Cry as a game franchise is very, very dormant right now, silent even. It's more silent than Silent Hill. Holy shit, when you put it in that context, that's actually quite funny. But I digress. Anyway, we got some recent news that Devil May Cry 5 has outsold Monster Hunter Wilds, right? And you think to yourself, when you see this news, that's fucking crazy, right? That's extremely absurd. Monster Hunter, Resident Evil, and Street Fighter, they are the three golden gooses for Capcom in terms of like how they coordinate their franchises, how they govern their franchises. The main three that they push the most on content and value and how they herald those franchises in a huge way. This has been kind of like an underlying complaint from many fandoms for years who have been fans of Capcom, but they want to see just more than Street Fighter, Monster Hunter, and Resident Evil. And I can understand where those fans are coming from. Resident Evil gets fed quite a bit. Requiem just was announced, and there is no new DMC under the books right now. Like, we don't know anything in terms of, hey, the anime is getting a season 2, and it's like, for me personally, I enjoyed it and I'm like, yay, but where is a new game at this point? Devil May Cry 5 outselling one of your marquee franchises is almost fucking unprecedented to me, right? And I believe personally that even though this has happened, it's also creating a surge of new videos and outcries and people saying that they should make another Devil May Cry after 5 is selling so well. Is what the company would possibly want with more money, is getting a lot of revenue, is getting a lot of like support financially right now, and that's the main thing that's important to a lot of these game publishers, the money coming in for a project. And I understand where the frustration and the ire comes from with the fan base, and I also understand that Devil May Cry is in limbo right now, and I don't think that a lot of people want to admit it, or they don't want to admit why Capcom doesn't push DMC right now, but I'm going to give my overall 2 cents. Devil May Cry not getting anything right now. Now, we have to look at the elephant in the room. I talked about this time and time again on this channel, and I feel it needs reiterating once again for those people that are frustrated and they may see some blind rage and they don't understand what's going on. Again, the guy who was the main proponent of Devil May Cry, the one who was pushing the sequels forward, the guy who worked on DMC5, and he was fighting, he was gung-ho to get Devil May Cry back into the masses, back into the limelight yet again. Hideaki Itsuno is gone from Capcom, all right? And it's a no-brainer, everyone knows this, it was public. The guy who was really going to bat for this series is gone. And I said this before in my previous videos, you know, most visionaries, they will get old, they will decide to have a chance to move on whenever applicable. Kojima's not going to be in the game industry forever. Shinji Mikami, like there's been multiple points where this guy was like, in and out, maybe I'll retire, this, that, and the third, and I believe this is his final stint right now in gaming with his new studio. After this is over, he's done. I think he's done. It's over. It's over for him. He's gonna retire. He's gonna go into the limelight. He's gonna go into the sunset as a legend, right? Hideaki Itsuno leaving Capcom shocked the world, and of course with his craft and expertise in pushing DMC so hard, the head of the snake has been cut off. Therefore, someone has to replace him. There needs to be someone with enough talent and vision and understanding of what Devil May Cry is. They need to be put into a pole position to lead a team or lead a project and do another Devil May Cry game. And I believe this all comes down to, well, Capcom probably haven't really figured this out yet, right? They probably have not put the gears into motion. Do I think they are ever going to? Yes, I think there has to be some discussions involved of, yes, this game is selling substantially well, and we also don't have the lead visionary. What are we going to do? And maybe they haven't figured it out yet. Who knows? Eventually people do get replaced, the Resident Evil squad or whatever, the team now, with either the remakes or the sequels. Like, you can make a franchise still continue without the original creator there. Shinji Mikami long gone from Capcom, right? They have different people involved with Resident Evil. I'm sure is going to happen, but you do have to think about that argument. Do they want that to happen for DMC, and is there enough incentive there? I don't know what Capcom is going to do after seeing these sales. I would assume the publishers will say, hey, that's good, that's great, but will it be enough to push a franchise in a direction of getting more content when it's not really getting a whole lot? That remains to be seen. But then again, maybe some new visionary can push just as hard as Itsuno did within the company. And maybe DMC could be buried forever and put in a pine box. You never know. So there's that 50-50 doubt that's lingering in my mind right now, but I do think that, of course, if they can replace Dead Rising heads and all that other shit that they're doing, Resident Evil heads, you could do that for DMC. It's a no-brainer. And they have the talent. It's not just Itsuno that made that game, it's also the people in Capcom currently working there today that also made that game. But I did hear a lot of key developers, a lot of key producers did leave Capcom. You know, some people like Matt Walker, he was the main one, the big face and producer that was there, you know, promoting the game and shit like that. He's gone from there, and a lot of other producers and people. But then again, you have some people that have a W to their resume. The guy who directed Bayonetta 2, I don't have his name up currently. Maybe I'll fetch it with a pause on screen sometime if I decide to go back to it. But the guy who directed Bayonetta 2 works with Capcom right fucking now. The guy who directed that game, he knows a thing or two about peak action combat. Why not grab that guy and make him work on something for DMC, or put him in a pole position? Then you have the return of Hideki Kamiya. I don't care what people say at this rate, or I don't care how coy that bald motherfucker is when he says things like, oh, I'm just working with Clover's my new team, I'm not in bed with Capcom that much, they haven't bought me out. The way he is talking in this enthusiastic tone when he came back to do Okami 2, him and Capcom are fucking, alright? There is no contest to what is going on. Kamiya and Capcom right now have a better relationship than they did when fucking Clover Studio like crumbled years ago, and you can see it in the interviews, you can see it when he goes and visits Capcom. I think Kamiya wanting to do a Devil May Cry 1 remake, and this is on record by the way, he has said this, that is someone pushing the franchise to a somewhat new entry, right, with a remake. And, you know, it's been done before and shit like that, but at least it's something that he wants to do it. And I don't mind Kamiya coming back to DMC. And the reason why I say this is because I always found it dumb that, and I love Isuno dearly, but this logic was really flawed. There was interviews where Isuno said, I'm not really a fan of remakes, right? And I get that. He can totally be obligated to have that thought process with game development. Like, nothing is taking away that he is a great game developer. But I never liked the mentality of not opening your franchise to much more possibility other than just sequels all of the time. I feel like games like Devil May Cry 2 can be vastly fixed. I feel like games like Devil May Cry 1 is in dire need of a remake, and even more so with the Resident Evil remakes coming out and actually, you know, fixing a few of the problems from the original, whether it comes to like gameplay or just the mechanics flowing a little bit better in certain areas. I totally do not mind if Devil May Cry 1 or Devil May Cry 2 got remade, especially 2, because 2 is universally known to be a bad game, and you can fix a shit game with a good remake. I thoroughly believe that needs to happen in this modern era, and not a lot of developers are taking that way. They are not taking that risk, because it's easier to remake the game that's like super great and super positive and has like 90s all over the place. Remake the original Resident Evil 2. You can do that because the popularity will resonate with people, but I think it's a lot more of an uphill battle to remake something like Devil May Cry 2, to remake something like Resident Evil Survivor, because not a lot of people have fond memories of those games. But you could take the bad and just isolate it to the past and make the future even better with remakes like this. I believe that idea should happen. Another reason why I believe Capcom is also not doing Devil May Cry right now is because we have to logically think, okay, not only do they have to restructure and get their heads together and understand, and they got a lot of games in development for 2026, which is absolutely fucking absurd. Okay, we have Pragmata, we have Resident Evil Requiem, we have whatever updates is coming to Monster Hunter, we have the rest of the Street Fighter DLC that's probably whatever the last character might drop, I don't know, next year, I don't know, and obviously other DLC announcements. That's going to be development time. And Onimusha Way of the Sword is coming out all in 2026, and there's probably unannounced games as well that is on the horizon. I don't know, one of them is DMC. There are folks that are saying that Capcom typically reveals some big news and trailers and whatnot at Tokyo Game Show, which is next month in September, at the end of September, and they're speculating, hey, they revealed stuff like the big trailers for Resident Evil 5 at TGS, or they revealed stuff before like the DMC reboot, which I keep forgetting they showed that at TGS with this initial reveal. I'm like, what the fuck? But people are speculating, hey, maybe we'll get a DMC6 or a DMC remake there. I think a remake is a lot more probable to let a new team like sort of toy around and play around with things, as opposed to just jumping into the 6th entry and going, what the fuck, you know, we have a new director on board here, and we need some time to experiment and get our vision together before jumping into DMC6. Or maybe they will, who knows. But going back to the point at hand, you know, not only is there a lot of restructuring going on, the head of the snake is gone, Devil May Cry itself is a mechanically complicated character action franchise that you need specific bells and whistles to get right. I'm talking like, you know, string stuff that people will recognize. you know, your devil triggers, your vast combos, your complexities, your styles on the fly. What are they going to take away? What are they going to regress? Is there going to be co-op, not co-op? What kind of roots are you going back to with Devil May Cry? What new things you will innovate upon, because each game innovates on something important. There's a lot of factors to take and revolve yourself around and maybe improve for another game, make the story a little bit better, since I'm not really the biggest fan of the story in DMC5 and how it concluded with Virgil not really having way too many consequences at the end of that plot. I'm sure Capcom has thought about all that shit well before we have, alright? And that takes time, that takes planning, that takes coordination, and you have to think about the market itself. And yes, I know people might say, oh well, you know, the sales will prove that people want more character action games, but I mean, if you look at the market now, what is going to sell more, a Resident Evil game or a DMC game? Obviously I think RE is going to be up there, so you have to think about how Capcom is going to tailor their interests versus you know, what's on the market selling right now. You know, a company, how can I put this in a way that makes better sense? A company's always going to look at what sells more regardless, and while it beats Monster Hunter, I don't think the DMC is beating RE in anything in terms of sales. So they would pump that out first versus a new DMC. And I saw some people get frustrated. Oh, why are they announcing another RE? Oh my god, Capcom is cooked. And I'm just like, it's typical business for them at the end of the day, which is why they announced that first over another Devil May Cry. I'm gonna be fair though, and I'm gonna say it's stupid that there's previous interviews from people who weren't there anymore. You know, they can't foretell the future, they're not clairvoyant, but I do think it's stupid that it's previous interviews of folks saying, I think that the next Devil May Cry probably won't take half a decade or more to come out, you know what I mean? And now we're kind of in the end game of that, where it's almost 2026 and there hasn't been much of DMC representation outside of collabs and of course an anime, and that's it. If the anime is bolstering sales and if Devil May Cry 5 is still selling, you would think that that is a franchise that is pertinent to the bottom line at the end of the day. And saying that it's not going to take another decade or more when you're half a decade in, it's just stupid logic. It's like, you know, I can see the fans being visibly frustrated and upset because of all these promises, and the hype from 5 still hasn't really simmered down on sales, and we're basically not getting much of anything in terms of the game plateau, at least in my opinion. I don't think there's going to be a DMC game that comes out in 2026 at all, 2025 at all. The best shot is after Kamiya is done working on Okami 2 and getting, you know, his wolf energy out into the equation. Then I believe if he wants to do a remake that badly of DMC1, I am all for it. That probably will be the perfect launch pad for not only the remaining team that is there, but also just trying to craft into the remakes, which has been proven to make a lot of money, and it's an easy blueprint involved, and I believe that definitely will work for Devil May Cry 1 and 2 for sure. I don't want 3 remade because I think that game is fine as is. I guess they could try it if they want to, but I don't want it first over DMC1 or DMC2. And what else? Like I said, DMC is mechanically complex. I can understand those games being like generation enders or generation starters, as opposed to constantly like belting them out over and over again. Would I want more DMC to be belted out? Yes, but there's also a side of my brain that's like, you know, I kind of prefer if they take their time and make the most mechanically complex game possible and make at least a decent plot, or improve the characters, or do something drastic and include elements that are like really great that works for DMC, that I don't mind waiting personally. I feel like what's happening right now is not only disappointment, but also I want to say impatience. Impatience is the thing. And Capcom is currently right now in their revival arc. They bought back Onimusha, which I never expected in a million years for them to touch that, and fucking Okami. I'm gonna leave the video on a positive note, despite having some skepticism and doubts and pessimism about the future and how they're gonna coordinate this, and how their company brain seems to be getting in the way. Look, miracles can happen, right? We never expected them to get on stage and announce DMC5 and say DMC5 is back after taking a decade to fucking say, oh, we've done DMC4 and now we're gonna do the next entry. There is always hope for a new game. There is always, you know, wishing on a star for a new game. And if we got DMC5, even if we thought it was over after like fucking 10 years, right, of waiting, and it's the same feeling I had with Ninja Gaiden as well. After years upon years, after Ninja Gaiden 3, I never expected to be sitting there watching a conference at Microsoft and seeing Ninja Gaiden 4 flash up on screen and fucking Ryu Hayabusa fighting Yakumo. I just like, what? I was just like, wait, what? So you never know. I just hope, I'm impatient in a way, if I just hope I see another Devil May Cry in my lifetime and I'm not like eating fertilizer when DMC6 or remake comes out. That's the only hope I probably have, and that's probably a little bit like, that's reasonably petty in my opinion. Everyone wants to play like a certain game before they you know, for something happens, or well, God forbid, like nothing happens, but that's how I feel. I just want to play another Devil May Cry game on my PS5 as soon as they finish. So I am patient in that regard, and I will wait, but I do understand the frustration, and it's just can't rush perfection either. You just can't rush it out. Like I don't think I can handle another bad DMC game or another mid one like DMC2 and the reboot. And so just let Capcom cook. Hopefully, you know, let your voices be heard reasonably, of course, and we will see what happens with the future of this franchise. But I don't know, just looking forward to the anime. I get that's not going to be enough for some people, but we will see what happens. Hey, it makes the game sell. There is a net positive there. I am Renegade Operative. Until then, I am signing out. This is my thoughts on the whole future of DMC topic. Capcom, make a DMC6 now. I do understand the sentiments, but I'm also realistic, and I understand that yes, after Isuno left, there was going to be a bit of a void there for Devil May Cry, and I believe that if any fan didn't know this, or didn't realize this, or didn't acknowledge it, you have to understand it's a no-brainer at that rate. It's a no-brainer. This was going to happen. But at the same time, yes, Capcom should show their underrepresented franchises more love, because if you don't, then that means less variety, of course, and less variety for a company is not really a good sign in terms of being creative. Until then, I'll see you guys next time. Hopefully you liked the video. Later.